YouTube Live as well. We're gearing up here. Weird times, weird times. FGC been on a hell of a run. It's tough to remain positive in times like these, that's for sure. Hopefully everyone here is doing okay. Hello, YouTube. See you guys. Christek PE with the 19 months. Thank you so much for that. Just telling me straight talk. You sure? You sure you don't want me to sugarcoat it a little bit? Just a little bit. Might help you out. Darkstalkers are not dead any day now. It's only been a decade since they teased it. Any day. Rip the Band-Aid off. We'll see about that. Not going to get no type of DLC or stages or music or nothing. I don't know about all that. This might be the worst Muse ever. Why are you dropping Muse in there? Hey, have you guys seen heard any buzz about the game Eugenics? I have no opinion on the actual content of the game itself, but I can't lie, that name gives me a lot, it sets off a lot of red flags. I get the pun. It's supposed to be meowing and cats and eugenics, and it's meant to be a bit of a tongue-in-cheek dark humor implication. But I don't think the art style of the content actually implies this sort of strange incel rabbit hole forum lingo ideology, but it feels like something that would come out of like an incel forum. The word itself, the title kind of just like a 2XKO, man. The title kind of throws me off a little bit. Sounds like something that would be on a Lux Maxing forum. So it kind of throws me off. But I know the gameplay and the content of it itself is not in that direction at all. Viewing eugenics, right? That's all it's making me think in my head. Like just really low level word association to things that are on the negative side of internet culture today. Even though that's not the implication. It's meant to be, you know, tongue-in-cheek. The 2XKO situation is crazy. It is indeed. We have a presentation to get through today. So, guys, the plan for today is I have a whole presentation plan. I'm going to be muting alerts. I'm going to be getting you guys to shut the hell up. And we're going to break down the 2XKO situation. And obviously, you're probably going to clip it and ship it for YouTube. So let me go ahead and get that all ready. I'm just going to see if I can get this in one take. One take, Jake. Over here. We're going to go ahead and get on into it. So if you've been reading the news around gaming or you're in a gaming adjacent space, you might have seen something about a Riot fighting game imploding. 2XKO, the Riot fighting game, made headlines yesterday because they laid off half of their development team 3 weeks after the official console release. You see headlines like Riot Games lays off roughly 80 employees. Riot's new fighting game is already imploding, and even Jeff Keighley weighing in on this with some quotes from the announcement. Overall momentum hasn't reached a level needed to support a team of this size long term. So this might, be really surprising to you if you've been following along with Riot, the League of Legends developer, one of the biggest gaming developers in the space right now. How could a game made by Riot be actually losing half of their dev team only a few weeks after the official release. Or if you're a normal person, you might be reacting to this news something along the lines of saying, you saw this post and then, oh, did I forget my own order? We're doing it again. I totally forgot my presentation order. Damn it. I crammed for the exam. This is why I like using the tabs. This is why I like using the tabs, man. I can remember what the fuck I put. Slideshows are not good for me. Thanks, Sucks. We're doing it live. We're doing it live. That's for sure. How do people remember what they put in their presentations? We doing a PowerPoint? Yeah, that's why I don't like PowerPoint, because I have bad memory. Take two. So if you've been... what the fuck am I talking about? What are we doing here? Okay, we got it. This is the one. This is the one. Here we go. Take one the first. Take two XKO. You guys got jokes, huh? You guys got jokes, I see. If you've been on the internet in any gaming adjacent space, you might have seen the headlines going around about 2XKO, Riot's fighting game foray that is shutting down. They're not shutting down a damn thing. They're not shutting down anything. That's wrong. Oh my god, this is why we don't do PowerPoints. This is why I just start yapping. Because as soon as I start having thoughts, it's over. Here we go. Take one. If you've been anywhere on the internet in a gaming adjacent space, you've been seeing the headlines about 2XKO, Riot's fighting game that after only 3 weeks post-console launch is already laying off half of their development team, which is around 80 developers being laid off. Headlines here like saying Riot's new fighting game is already imploding, and Jeff Keighley even weighed in on the action. And basically everywhere you look, people are getting in on this because, layoffs and the state of the gaming industry is a very hot topic in the gaming social media sphere, as a lot of game developers are shutting down, and the industry as a whole has been facing a lot of struggles around keeping developers employed. And in general, there's been a lot of questions about the industry as a whole. And yesterday, people logged onto Twitter to see this post on the Riot Games account, not on the 2XKO account, on the big Papa Riot Games account, saying an update on 2XKO. And if you pulled up this announcement, you saw from the producer of 2XKO themselves, Tom Cannon, that they are actually going to be downsizing the team, laying off 50% of the dev team. And they say here, after a lot of discussion and reflection, we are reducing the size of the 2XKO team. With a smaller focused team, we're going to dig in and make key improvements to the game, including some of the things we've already heard you asking for. We'll share some of our plans soon. So they try to let you know that the dev team is definitely decreasing in size, but they go on to say that they're not, ending 2XKO. It's not immediately reaching end of service right now, immediately after it finally fully released with a 1.0 version. But it does not build confidence going into this game that actually was finally in the hands of a large portion of the player base for the very first time just 3 weeks ago. But if you're hearing this news now, your first thought might be, what the hell is a 2XKO? Which is a big part of the problem with the story of this game, because most people saw this news and said, wait, League of Legends, Riot, they made a fighting game? There's a League of Legends fighting game? Shout out to my boy Robin Songs here on the left. He was just tweeting about Riot Games a few hours before the announcement went out about 2XKO having the dev layoffs, and they're going here. Riot Games is the best company of all time. League of Legends, pioneer game in esports and modern culture. TFT, best strategy game of all time. Valorant, best shooter of all time. Arcane, best animated show of all time. Riftbound, best card game of all time. He's signing off on this, glazing everything Riot's ever put out, except he doesn't even know that Riot had already released a fighting game called 2XKO. Literally, even Riot's biggest glazer does not know that Riot had a fully fledged released fighting game for consoles and PC. And Oni Smoke here talking to Incross. The amount of people saying that they just found out 2XKO release upon reading today's news says it all. And then they say, me telling my FPS friends about 2XKO and them asking, what's that? Lol. I tell them it's a fighting game with League characters, and they say, wait, that sounds fire. Maybe they should have named it something else. So, yes, there's a lot of things going on here. Most people are finding out today with these layoffs. This is the biggest viral story and biggest marketing opportunity the game has had since its inception over a decade ago. But if you don't know, this story goes back, yes, over a decade. This was a over decade-long story in the making. So in this video, we're going to break down exactly what went wrong with 2XKO, the complete history of it, so you can get the full picture of how did Riot even get into the fighting game space to begin with, and how did this team get laid off with only 3 weeks post-launch from such a massive developer. So we're going to break down the complete history so that we can answer all the questions around this news story in case you're seeing the name 2XKO and you have no idea what's going on. We're going to make it easy to follow in this video. Now, 2XKO, it's been around for quite some time, and it's actually already on its way out 3 weeks after launch. But if you want to have the full breakdown, we actually go further into detail about this on the podcast. I'm going to give a quick little plug. Trash Talk is the YouTube channel. We have a show on there, Extra Trashy. Tomorrow, on Wednesday, there will be a full length episode on there, long form content discussing the this development, the future of 2XKO, and our predictions with my co-host Idom. So if you want to check out the long form, you can head over to Trash Talk FGC. But let's get back to the video here today. So let's bring you all the way back to 2015. Go back a decade with me, and let's check out a little game called Rising Thunder. This game was a small indie prototype alpha title, which featured a 1v1 game with a handful of characters with these Rock'em Sock'em robot-inspired characters that was a easy to pick up, easy to follow indie fighting game. And the big thing about this that made it very unique for the time was that it did not use motion controls, meaning you activated your specials sort of like in Smash Brothers. You held a direction and pressed a special button. But beyond that, what was unique about these controls is that they were on cooldowns. Something very similar and familiar to people who use or play League of Legends. Yeah, the special moves had a cooldown mechanic, which was like the very unique thing. So this kind of caught the eye of a lot of different members of the fighting game community at the time, and kind of caught wind a bit more than you would see for indie fighting games at this era. And that was for no fluke, really, because this game was developed by some of the biggest members of the fighting game community, some of the most important and prominent members of the fighting game community. So we have on the left the Cannon brothers, Tom and Tony Cannon, and they were as founding members of the studio that produced this title, and they're incredibly important to the history of the fighting game community. Major contributions to fighting games that you play to this day. They developed themselves GGPO, the Rollback Network SDK. GGPO is the basis for rollback netcode, which is the basis for every major fighting game title today, aside from a few exceptions, leverage some form of rollback netcode that can be traced back to GGPO technology. This enabled online play between two opponents in a much more lag-free environment, because rather than just delaying the inputs for the game, introducing input delay to make up for the latency between two players, it also featured rollback mechanics, which would actually roll back and synchronize the state between two separate clients to keep things in time, so that you can allow the clients to be out of sync, not introduce input delay, and just roll back and predict the state of the game and allow for a much more seamless online experience. Prior to GGPO and rollback netcode, online gaming for fighting games was ass, and that was part of the culture where you actually had to physically meet up with people, either play in arcades or in offline meetups, to have a true lag-free experience, because the online play introduced so much input delay that it was quite frankly a different realm, different genre of gaming. On top of that, they also founded and started EVO, the biggest tournament series, period, for fighting games ever to this day. They no longer work on GGPO or EVO directly themselves, but these two guys have done an incredible amount of work in revolutionizing the FGC. That cannot be understated. And also on the right, working on Rising Thunder, was Seth Killian along with being probably my favorite fighting game tournament commentator of all time. He was a big, heavy influence in the release of Street Fighter 4 and was working as a Capcom community manager in that game. But also, apparently, he had his words were in the ear of Ono at the time, apparently, and he had some influence in the design direction of the game. And Street Fighter 4 ended up revolutionizing and revitalizing the fighting game community as it is today. I would not be here without Street Fighter 4. And he also worked on other FGC titles like Dive Kick, an indie fighting game title. And it's just been a big part of fighting game culture for many years. So these guys founded Radiant Entertainment working on Rising Thunder. Rising Thunder and Radiant Entertainment were then purchased by Riot Games in 2016. Rising Thunder goes offline. That's when things start to get interesting. Now, why would Riot Games, out of nowhere, come by and purchase up this studio? Were they just trying to squash out the competition? Were they scared about their title Stonehearth and, this Rising Thunder game in these genres? Probably not. They probably wanted to build on top of these prototypes and bring them into the fold of the Riot Games universe. So this became a big news story that Riot Games acquires Rising Thunder and Stonehearth Studio Radiant Entertainment. And this is when the speculation begins. In the fighting game community, you have to understand, we're not Riot Games, okay? Things are a little bit different. This is what the 2016 League of Legends World Championships look like. At this time, 2016, esports is in full force. I mean, venture capitalists are pouring millions upon millions of dollars, funding insane salaries for top-level players. Developers are pushing for esports. There's speculation that esports is going to be bigger than the Super Bowl. Like, this is the next big thing that's going to take over the world. It is full steam ahead, gravy train going, absolute insanity that people are expecting esports to be the biggest thing ever. Obviously, we've seen that bubble has popped since then, but that was the world we were living in at the time. Meanwhile, in the FGC, we were playing Melty Blood in the bathrooms for grand finals, right? Like, it was just not really the same thing. Like, this is the classic stereotype for fighting game players, that it's just a poverty genre. Obviously, this is like next level. It's not like this across the board, but generally it's a community scene driven by passion, not necessarily by the monetary incentive for competing, because there was very little money in the fighting game community, and it was mostly disconnected tournaments run by local organizers that people met up to play. And yeah, there was a handful of top players that made a living being a professional player, but for the most part, that wasn't really the case. Now, there was esports initiatives in the fighting game community, mainly with Street Fighter. And at this time, Street Fighter 4 just concluded, and we're going into the era of Street Fighter 5. And if you compare 2016 Street Fighter 5 to 2016 League of Legends, you can see that it's just orders of magnitude different. Street Fighter 5 for 2016 had the biggest prize pool we had ever seen in the fighting game community, and that was $250,000 for first place, with $350,000 total in the pricing. And for League of Legends, they had over $5 million, right? So just, you could not compare this. So when we see in the community at this time that Riot, who is putting out tournaments with over $5 million, is buying a studio that is founded and owned by the Cannon brothers and Seth Killian, who made a fighting game prototype, people start letting their imaginations run wild. They're seeing dollar signs, ka-ching, like people's imaginations are going crazy at this time. There's speculation about Riot producing a fighting game that's going to take over the entire community. It's going to dethrone Capcom as being the king of the FGC, and Street Fighter is going to be donezo, and they're going to be signing exclusive contracts to esports players, and they're going to be full-time Riot fighting game specialists, and it's going to make full-time careers, and an entire industry is going to form around this Riot fighting game. This is where the imaginations are starting to run crazy before there is even a game that existed at all. And yet also to understand at this time, Street Fighter V was not very well received. Street Fighter IV ended on a high note. It was a game that was growing year after year with a lot of community enthusiasm. And at the same time, they were building up the esports initiative with the Capcom Cup. Street Fighter V releases, though, to almost universal condemnation. It released far too early. It was glitchy, buggy, lacked content. It was just underbaked and not finished. And that led to a sort of power vacuum in the FGC, where a lot of people were looking for something new to come and replace Street Fighter V at this time. So people were hungry for change and hungry for someone to kind of shake up the status quo in the fighting game community. And Dr. Danny Pham here, my man, pulled up this old 4chan post with the recent news. This is a post from 2016. It'll be funny to see Street Fighter V fully die once Riot's new game is revealed. The irony is, for all the shit talk the FGC does against anime games, those will be the only fighters with any kind of fan base left, aside from NRS garbage, once Riot's games hits. 10 years ago, this was the actual mentality that you would see in pockets of the FGC. This was the kind of discourse that was going on. Keep in mind, still no game announced, just the purchase of a studio. Keep that in mind. But a few years later, you have it. It's real. The speculation is starting to come to fruition. We have the very first look at what would become the actual Riot fighting game. They did purchase that studio that produced Rising Thunder for a real reason. It's a real game. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Project L. This is the first look that we had in 2019, 3 years rather, after the purchase of Radiant Entertainment, of the early development of Project L. And if you were paying attention to 2XKO at all, you notice it looks very different. It has a completely different art style. It's more of this like paint smear art style, impressionist art style, which I actually really like. I think it looks great, to be quite honest. And if you pay close attention as well, it's also a 1v1 fighting game. And you can see it's like Darius fighting Ari, and also like another champion, another character here that I'm not as familiar with, that really has not released in 2XKO. But it's real. And once again, the imagination start going wild. People start popping off. Project L, we have a fighting game. We have the Cannon brothers there talking to us directly. They're from the FGC. Riot is going to save the fighting game community. And then COVID, right? It had already been years since they purchased the studio. It took 3 years to get a small snippet of a prototype of a project without a full name. And then COVID hits in 2020, and things start going sideways for the entire planet. So it would be a few years before we get another update regarding Project L. And at this time, there's been some changes in the FGC. Like Street Fighter V was slowly starting to redeem itself and was getting into high gear with the DLC because of delays to Street Fighter VI due to COVID. And at the same time, games like Dragon Ball FighterZ released and became one of the major players. That power vacuum that Street Fighter V left kind of left an opportunity for other games to step up, like Dragon Ball FighterZ. Guilty Gear comes out and becomes a really big game during this time. The world and the world of fighting games themselves is changing rapidly. At the same time, esports, this fully popped the bubble for esports. So things are not looking the same like they were in 2016. But finally, 2021, 5 years after Riot purchases Radiant Entertainment, we have another update about Project L. They're back, this time with a brand new art style and with a brand new game almost entirely. In this dev post, Tom Cannon comes back and says, "We're excited to share that Project L will be a tag team style fighting game." And they also are leaning really into this common sentiment in the community at the time about games being too easy. Like a real big part of the fighting game community is always romanticizing older titles and talking about the lowering of skill ceilings and the lowering of skill floors to make it so that it's too easy to get randomed out. It's too easy for a scrub to beat a pro. And they're really leaning into this in this time of the marketing. One of the go-to lines they had is, they say here in the blog post itself, with an easy to learn but hard to master mentality. And from the video, Tom Cannon says, "This isn't about building a game where new players have a chance to beat the pros. It's about unlocking the fun at all skill levels." There's a bit of tongue-in-cheek there for sure, leaning into common discourse in the community at this time about it being too easy to be randomed out in modern fighting games. So they're coming out and saying this is going to be a serious competitive game, but it's going to be fun at all levels. It's going to be a tag team style fighting game, completely different art style, completely different type of game from the 1v1 game that they showed early when Project L was first announced. And they're also flexing their rollback technology, because not only are they, developers who actually created GGPO, they're going to step that up with Riot's networking technology to create the best online experience possible, because This is COVID. People are primarily playing fighting games online, and not having supreme and excellent netcode is a death sentence for these fighting game titles at the time. So they're really leaning into this, and there's like a lot of positive feeling in the hardcore fighting game community about this. It's like, oh shit, like they're hitting all the boxes for what we need at this time. We need a hardcore fighting game, fun for all levels, but like the pros will always win, needs to be good online. Like, yeah, people are feeling pretty good. But there's a little bit of concern here. Wasn't this going to be a 1v1 fighting game? Why is it about to be a tag team fighting game? We'll touch on that in a little bit as well. But the conversation continues, right? I found these Reddit posts from 4 or 5 years ago. A lot of people see Project L as a second coming of Christ. I do not believe it will be a bad game, not at all, but some people really need to chill about it. And then this person replies, Project L is definitely poised to create the next big fighting game, and boom, similar to Street Fighter 4 and DBFZ. The bar is so low that all it needs is to be a solid, fun fighting game, and it'll already be top of the market since free-to-play, rollback netcode, and long-term developer support is already guaranteed. I don't know about that last one, man. I don't know about that last one anymore. Riot will have to drop the ball hard for the game to not be a huge success. And I do agree with the whole save the FGC. Hype Train needs to chill, though, since the post says the FGC isn't doing bad enough that it needs saving. So this was a common attitude at the time, right? This idea of save the FGC. People were really on the hype train still at this point in 2021, 5 years after Rising Thunder was purchased. It's been a long time at this point, and we just found out it went from 1v1 to a 2v2 fighting game. Some evolution, some pivoting of the direction of the game along the way. But time goes on, and the world of fighting games is also still evolving as time keeps moving. Street Fighter 6 eventually comes out in 2023, and it is a smashing success. That window of opportunity where Street Fighter 5 kind of dropped the ball in the beginning of its release and let the power vacuum is fully filled at this point, right? DBFZ came out, Guilty Gear Strive came out, a lot of solid titles. Tekken 7 took up a lot of space in the fighting game community. And then Street Fighter 6 comes out. Boom! It is a smash success. It's a fully fledged release. Content-filled, feature-rich, great online play. And then it's just dominating in the community itself. It's growing in the Western audience. And then eventually explodes in Japan exponentially as well. And EVO 2023 becomes the largest EVO and potentially offline gaming tournament, period, of all time, with 7,000 people entering, which is an insane number for Street Fighter 6 or for EVO in general. And that Street Fighter 6 is here, baby. It's the king, and it still is the king right now in the fighting game community, and is blowing up even more out in Japan. So where is 2XKO at this time? It's been 2 years since they announced that they're doing a tag fighter. Well, 2XKO introducing duo play. So now at this time, not only did they finally change from Project L to 2XKO, they announced that it's going to be a 2v2 game, in the sense that if you so choose, you can actually play either 1v1, 1v2, or 2v2. It is a tag fighting game where, typically the most competitive mode will be one player versus one player, but you can opt also to have a separate player on your team control another character and try to synergize with your opponent and synchronize your tagging and play as a team, which is a very creative concept that had already been done, by the way. That had already been done by Street Fighter Cross Tekken, but because tagging was such a more fluid mechanic in this game, it definitely incentivized a lot more back and forth with your teammates, and it kind of made sense, right? If they're going for the League of Legends experience, League of Legends is exclusively a team-based game, so it kind of fit with the whole vibe of doing a League fighter, and I think there was a lot of positive reception to that, where it's like, okay, tag game, you can play 1v1 and also have the option for duos and teams. This could be something. You could be cooking something up. And of course, they were at that EVO where Street Fighter was running the show, man. 7,000 entrants. Their presence in the community is everywhere, right? They have playable builds of the game now out in public. So if you show up at these events, you can sit down and play 2XKO. They got the booths. They got boots on the ground for the developers and the team out there promoting the game. They got the arcade sticks with the branding. They have arcade cabs with 2XKO branding. They have these builds out in the hands of people or getting feedback and promoting the game with old school boots on the ground in the fighting game community marketing. And go on to 2024. They're still kind of continuing in this process of trying to get the hands out, get the game into the hands of the people without fully releasing the game itself. In 2024, they started doing these alpha labs. So for people on PC, you finally got your hands on the game itself, and people had a lot of feedback from that. And, people are starting to form their opinions. They have the Alpha Lab 2 as well. If you go to EVO Japan, you can get your hands on the build. If you go to EVO Vegas again in 2025, you can get your hands on the latest builds. They keep updating the game, and they keep giving people access if you are in the Alpha Labs, if you happen to get a code, if you happen to have a PC, maybe if you're, a pro player, maybe you get a little bit more hands-on time in the game. Slowly, the game is both accessible and inaccessible at the same time. It's both exposed and also unplayable. Over time, more and more people are playing the game, streaming it, footage out there. And at the same time, a lot of people are sitting at the sidelines observing without being able to play the game. Keep in mind, a huge portion of the hardcore fighting game audience exclusively plays on console. Now, a lot of the League audience, of course, exclusively plays on PC because they're playing League of Legends. You are a PC audience. But for fighting games, they went from arcades to consoles for the most part. A lot of people do play on PC, but a huge portion of the fighting game community plays still to this day exclusively on consoles. So there's a couple things going on here where there's a bit of discontent brewing where people who don't have access to the games are feeling a bit stiff, feeling a bit like, hey, I'm out. I'm not on the inside. I'm not in the club. I don't have clout. I don't have privilege to get access to this. I'm from a different country that I can't even attend these events. I can't afford to go to EVO. And at the same time, they're getting bored watching the game be optimized and developed by the community, and the discovery period where people are figuring out how to play the game is happening before their eyes without them being a part of it. And also people are kind of judging the game itself. Like, it's getting a lot of scrutiny at this time. And here's where it's important to keep in mind, like, what people expect from a fighting game. The big three, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, and Street Fighter 6, are the big three because they have been doing it the biggest for the longest. They are established fighting game IPs that survive from the initial wave of fighting games. Street Fighter 2 kind of set the genre and kickstarted it. It set the standards. And then Street Fighter managed to survive through its lull with Street Fighter 3 into Street Fighter 4. Mortal Kombat also escaped and became like the American-developed fighting game. Tekken as well for the premier 3D fighting game. And these IPs now are a name brand in and of themselves, and they sell the most copies. And a big thing about these fighting games is, for one, none of them are free to play products. They come fully fledged with story modes, arcade modes, training modes, and then all the multiplayer options as well. They're not specifically focused on just competitive multiplayer or specifically only an esports focus, like something like a League of Legends would be. And the other thing about them is, gameplay-wise, they're all usually 1v1 fighting games. They're usually 1v1 fighting games. I know the latest Mortal Kombat entry has assists, and that's actually a little bit controversial in the MK community, but they get their sales in other ways, right? Generally, the sales come from people who just like the art of the game, the energy, the presentation, the supers, the story mode. There's a lot of casual appeal to these titles, aside from just simply the competitive side of the gameplay itself. Meanwhile, this is what 2XKO looks like. So this was one clip I could find to easily embed in this, and this is like the most tame sequence you can think of for 2XKO. This is a 2v2 game with characters like Echo, who has a rewind ability to set up like 15-way mix-ups into tag launchers, into your assists to keep the combo going, into pretty much touch-of-death combos, right? The amount of damage you can dish out and the amount of complexity with the tag mechanics that this game could actually end up with is absurd, which in some ways is actually a positive thing, right? Like there's people who really enjoy that. But on the other hand, you could make an argument that it ends up developing in such a way that it harms the visual clarity and it raises the barrier to entry for most people. Instead of having to learn one character and how they operate versus your opponent's characters, you have to learn two characters, how they synergize, and how they operate against two other characters and their synergy as well. So it's a bit of a hardcore fighting game in that sense, and that potentially could be off-putting. Potentially. 2XKO is joining the ranks of being a tag fighter, and tag fighters historically are like a niche within a niche. I would say the typical fighting game is a 1v1 fighting game, and then there is a subset of fighting games that have assists in them where you're able to pick a team of characters, call assists. And some of these games are revered and loved games in the world of fighting games and beyond, right? Like, look at Marvel vs. Capcom 3, MVC2, Dragon Ball FighterZ. These were very successful fighting games that people really do enjoy, even at a casual level outside of the hardcore fighting game community. But 2XKO is not just a tag fighter. It's an active tag fighter. This is like being a niche within a niche within a niche. Because what's left on the screen here is the active tag fighters, some examples I could think up of, and these games are for fucking sickos. Active tag is one of the most mind-bending, insane mechanics that has ever been introduced into a fighting game. It's become kind of like this goal for developers post MVCI. MVCI was one of the first games to really go into this mechanic, along with BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, and it's just fucking crazy. It's just a crazy mechanic. It really lets sickos who enjoy hardcore, fucked up offense and insane combos go crazy with the game engine. And that can be really, really cool. It can also be seen as really, really oppressive and visually hard to follow with a lot of clutter on the screen. I don't think that's that big of a deal to me personally for a casual appeal, but that could be that's a factor to consider here. It's a factor to consider here. Active tag is when you're able to both call an assist and then swap into that assist at any point in time, meaning you can kind of ping pong between two characters a lot more freely, which leads to a lot more aggressive and complex mix-ups and combo conversions. I'm not going to get too much into the details with that, but just know that this is a game that enables sickos to do sick things in their fighting games. It lets you have a lot of freedom to the point where you can do really fucked up things. Active tag fighters, if that sounds good to you, you want to check them out. Now, the other thing about those games I mentioned before is that a lot of people are trying to play for the story, man. The big three, they got story modes. Mortal Kombat sells like fucking crazy because everyone cares about the story mode. Casual people love Mortal Kombat for the gore. They want to boot it up, play the story mode, do a couple fatalities, call it a day. Mortal Kombat is actually really not popular in the competitive FGC. However, in terms of a business move, it makes a shit ton of money because they sell the most copies. They sell the most copies to the most casual players, who lines the pockets of Warner Brothers and keeps the franchise alive. Meanwhile, in their tournament following, Mortal Kombat actually does not have a very active competitive community, and it tends to fall off very quickly. And right now, it's really struggling in the fighting game community. But as a business, it definitely gets a lot of playthrough, right? Like, it gets a lot of people into the story mode, and it sells a lot of copies. So having that casual content moves copies of the game. It's something that sells the game. Meanwhile, come back to 2XKO. As these alphas are going on, as these we're getting closer and closer to a potential beta, this game is already confirmed to not have story mode, right? It's going to be like League of Legends, focused on competitive multiplayer. That's fine. Okay. Well, there's other ways to get content too. There's content in just terms of characters. A lot of these team games, look at the Marvel vs. Capcom series. This has a lot of beloved characters in these franchises. You have Marvel characters, you have Capcom characters. Having them go at it is crazy. It just it's like really like a brain bender. Being a kid and picking Hulk and Iron Man and having them do supers to each other, and seeing that in an arcade or MVC3, just crazy clash of characters, and they do crazy things, and there's a lot of options and variants to choose from. But then 2XKO confirms that at launch, they're only having 10 characters. So not only do they not have the casual content in terms of like a story mode and other more casual ways to engage with the engine of the game itself, they have 10 characters. And this is confirmed in 2025. 10 years after Rising Thunder, 6 years after the first teaser for Project L, it is confirmed that the game will be releasing with 10 characters for a 2v2 fighting game, meaning you have to use at least 2 of the characters on your team when you play the game, which will lead to so many repeat interactions and less variety in the gameplay experience, and even worse, I would argue, in the spectating experience. Now, of course, the plan is to continue to release new characters, and I think they were aiming for about 5 characters a year was the initial goal with this rollout, get the game to the hands of the people and start rolling out games. But that was a huge blow to the hype and potential like spectator ability and viewability of the game itself. And, it's really a strange thing to see in a franchise like League of Legends that has over 170 characters at this point. There is such a rich amount of history and lore to pull from that they've been developing over the years. You got only 10 characters to choose from. And on top of this, something that I have come to learn is that there's a big rift in the League community between League fans and Arcane fans. This is something that I am not privy to. Listen, I don't play League of Legends. I did not watch Arcane. This is not the world I'm into. 2XKO did one thing right, and it got me to pay attention to League of Legends. I never really gave a shit about League of Legends at all. But apparently, hardcore League players kind of hate how much Riot has been pushing Arcane as an IP, and characters that are in the Arcane universe seem to be taking over a lot of the focus and collaborations and recent releases. So there's another issue where a lot of the characters in this 10 character roster are Arcane characters, which pissed off a lot of League players. Like this started to become more of a drama thing where people are like, why is this an Arcane fighter? Why is it all Arcane? I want some classic League characters in there. There's a lot more popular picks. So even within the community that they're trying to potentially target outside of the fighting game community, it became more drama. We're like, hey, I don't have my character. I don't have the character that I relate to, that I want. I'm really attached to, and that would drive my passionate engagement with this game, because fighting games are really about like really relating and connecting with their characters. Same thing with like a League of Legends, right? And especially fighting games, I would argue, even more so. It's not a genre with character bands and a team roster. You pick your game. Some people are ride or die with one character for life, for a game or a franchise's life cycle, lifespan. They stick with one character. If you don't have that character for someone, they might drop your game entirely. It can make or break a player's participation. So having only 10 characters and pissing off a lot of people from the game that you're basing, the IP that you're basing the game off of, is already kind of like failing to capture the audience. Because the typical strategy for a fighting game based on an IP, hey, Dragon Ball FighterZ came out, you got Goku, get Goku in there, get Vegeta, get Frieza, get Piccolo, get all the fan favorites in the game from a beloved franchise like Dragon Ball, and people will buy the game and play it even if they don't know a damn thing about the fighting game genre. And Dragon Ball FighterZ did that incredibly successfully and sold millions, and then from that derived an esports scene from the secondary hardcore audience that stuck with the game and learned the main mechanics. And some of those casual players who did not know anything about fighting games or the fighting game community or the esports scene ended up playing, a small percentage of them ended up playing competitively because they just loved the game, right? That's generally the net that you're casting with these products. But 2XKO is an esports product first without the casual appeal, and you're starting to see the cracks form as we're getting closer and closer to the release. So after all these weird alpha labs and like this unequal access for people who are at events, and like there's developer builds leaking out in the wild, there's concerns about competitive integrity with top players getting too much access behind closed doors, they finally come out with a closed beta on September 9th, 2025, and this will be available globally on PC. Once again, not available on consoles. And normally this wouldn't be an issue. League players are all on PC, so it should still be active, should be popping, not a problem. But remember, the fighting game community is largely on console. Jay Snyder here, MVC3 2011 Evo Champ, even commented about this when they didn't have any announcement about console release during the closed beta for 2XKO. He said, I try to refrain from being negative on social media these days, but we're working hard on console. It's not an update, and the fact that they can't give a roadmap or any real details is almost an insult. There's literally no chance for me to compete at this game, being now 3 months behind, and it's looking like it's going to be another 4+ months behind. I don't know if I was ever going to be good at this game, or if I'm too old now, but at this point, it's irrelevant. When's Tokon, referring to Marvel Tokon, an upcoming fighting game based on the Marvel franchise by the other fighting game developer in the scene right now, ArcSys, who made Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? So even hardcore fighting game players are starting to be fed up with this lack of access because, yeah, if it's a competitive focused game and I'm multiple months behind because I'm only on console, what's the point? How can I even compete? How can I catch up to those hundreds to thousands of hours that other people have at that time? And this is also where you start to see this weird, the game is released, but the game's not released, sort of status quo going on, because the closed beta rolled straight into early access a few weeks after the closed beta began. So it was about 2 or 3 weeks where they did closed beta on PC, and then they just decided to update it and call it early access, but it's still not available on console. This is also starting to lead to confusion where people don't know if the game is released or not. They have no idea. Meanwhile, there is zero awareness of this game's existence outside of the fighting game community. They are marketing it heavily with the pro fighting game scene, with the hardcore fighting game community. They're at the fighting game events. They're active on Twitter. And keep in mind, a large part of the dev team is from the community itself, right? The Cannon brothers themselves are OG founding members of the fighting game community. And a lot of the champ designers, QA, a lot of the people working top to bottom on this game are hardcore competitive fighting game players who now have a job in the industry. So it makes sense that they're really tight-knit with this small niche community, but it's not grabbing the attention of anyone outside of this, nor is it grabbing attention from the greater league community, which has millions of players compared to the thousands of players that fighting games have. I mean, they tried. There was an attempt. 2XKO is literally in the Riot client when you go to launch the games. Like, it's there. You can see it. But most League players just autopilot into League. They don't think about the Riot client at all. But it's there. You know, you can see the icon. It's in the bottom left. But for the most part, it's like not working, it seems like. And even during the closed beta, here's some stream charts that tracked the most viewership. All of the streamers who had the most viewership during these closed betas and early access were all fighting game or fighting game adjacent streamers. The only one I would argue who's not FGC is Northern Lion here, who had very few total hours streamed to the game, but because he just has so much viewership, he jumped to the 5th place position here in this chart. So it's already looking a little funky. Where is the Tyler 1? Where is all the big League streamers? The League streamers have far, far, far more viewership. I mean, go to any fighting game on Twitch right now compared to League of Legends. The League of Legends category destroys fighting game viewership across the board 24/7. None of the League players have even considered dabbling in this game and giving it the promo that it needs. Because once again, this is a free-to-play fighting game. It's going to need a player base to sustain its population and to drive sales to cosmetics in order to actually pay for the development costs and make a profit. And once again, talking about the player counts here, here's Tekken 8, right? Like 46,000 all-time peak on Steam charts, 6,000 24-hour peak. Compare that to number of monthly League of Legends players, it's in the hundreds of millions. Like, it's just, you can't compare this shit. It doesn't, there's no comparison whatsoever. League as an IP, as an active game, just absolutely shits on the entire genre of fighting games, every game in it combined. It's just completely different world. So the fact that it's only so far reaching the already core fighting game audience and not reaching external to that, to the greater League audience who loves the IP and pulling them into the fold, is definitely worrying at this time. So you start seeing people talk about low player counts, people talking about empty lobbies because you're supposed to go to a lobby in order to actually queue up for matches. This digital avatar lobby where you sit down next to the caps and actually play people, you queue up there, like trying to mimic the hardcore arcade experience that fighting game players go through in real life. And you start to see these discussions, like people are starting to notice that, hey, it feels like there's not as much engagement going on with this game as you might have expected. Remember, this is now 2025. It's been 6 years since the first announcement of Project L. People were talking about Riot and Project L, the League of Legends fighting game is going to save the FGC. Back in 2016, people thought this was going to blow Street Fighter out of the water and be far more active and have far more opportunities in esports and build careers. The reality is starting to not shape up with that much engagement. And I felt this firsthand. I played the game and I actually enjoyed it myself. Content I produced around the game got significantly less viewership than any other fighting game ever. Ever since I started to have an active YouTube channel, I've done content for Tekken 7, Tekken 8, DNF Duel, Guilty Gear Strive, Avatar, what any random fighting game that's released that I dabble with for a couple weeks. All of them got significantly more engagement and viewership across Twitch and YouTube videos than 2XKO. something about the game, even for the hardcore FGC, is starting to not generate the buzz even within the niche, much less pulling League of Legends players out here. So people are starting to notice. However, we carry on. We do have the console launch. Finally, with short notice, they announced that the console launch is occurring on January 20th, 2026. And, it's free to play. So when it drops out, hey, it released. Hey, it's on PS5. And you can see on the PS5 charts that it's actually number 3 in US and Canada behind Fortnite and Roblox, which pretty good. It's hard to beat Roblox and Fortnite. At this point, people have already started to temper their expectations a little bit because they're like, okay, this shit is not like blowing the roof off of the fighting game genre, but maybe it can be a solid slow burn of a release. And now it's actually officially released, even though it was in a weird amorphous state where it had been visible and played for 2 years since 2023, 2024 with all these alpha labs and betas. Now it's available to the world, and maybe it can build momentum with its free to play, no cost to entry, and build an organic following over time. But, is that guaranteed? We've seen this before, right? This whole time, there was another fighting game that went down a similar trajectory. Multiverses was Warner Brothers' attempt to do a Smash clone with their massive amounts of various IPs all under one label. And Multiverses, released as a free-to-play platform fighter, which had monetization around costumes, cosmetics, and characters. And it had a lot of buzz in the beginning. It actually had a lot more buzz than 2XKO did upon initial release. This thing even won Fighting Game of the Year in early access. It then died, was revived, and died again. And along the way, it had major gameplay overhauls, altering everything from character balance to combo systems to gameplay speed and the likes. It was struggling to change every dial it possibly could to figure out what would make people stick. And the comparisons between 2XKO and Multiverses were happening a lot. A lot of people got defensive about this, but it was hard to not see, our last time we had a major publisher come into somewhat of an adjacent fighting game fold and tried to make something happen here, it ended up with a colossal failure, and Multiverses eventually just went offline and hasn't been online for, I believe, a couple years at this point. So people were still concerned at this point, but there's still hope. There's still hope. We have a lot of issues to go through, but there's still hope. I actually forgot about all these controversies. I'm just going to do a rapid fire of all the other controversies that were surrounding this game's official console release at this time. I think people were finally reaching a head with the pro player privilege. People were concerned about how many pro players were having access to pre-release content. People were complaining about the monetization in the game, $100 arcane skins. There was backlash about a Twitch sponsorship gone wrong. There was concerns about the direction of the gameplay. The developers who are in constant communication with the community were talking about making big changes, big swings to the core gameplay. The balance issues with only 10 characters in the game. Yasuo and Echo are running the show. They're pretty much in every tournament match, leading to fatigue from viewership as well, which of course is exasperated by the fact that there's only 10 characters, 12 characters now in the game. And then of course the console launch itself was not flawless, tons and tons of screen tearing on PS5. So a lot of issues surrounding the release at this time, but there's hope with Frosty Faustings. Look, at this point in the game's lifespan, it is so clear this game is not resonating with the League of Legends audience. And it's barely even resonating. It's hanging on by a thread within the core FGC. But maybe we can slowly build an organic following and an organic, sustainable future through these tournaments, put on a hype show, get people interested in the game, and slowly build something. Get some viral moments, get something to get the people excited, share clips of the game, and slowly build the awareness among the greater gaming community. Frosty Faustings is a FGC community-run tournament. This is as grassroots as it gets here. For 2XKO, Riot is not doing a full professional tour. However, for this season, they promised to do a championship circuit where they only put in prize money. They're not actually doing like a tour finals or anything like crowning a grand champion at the end, but they're just supporting local tournaments to try to get engagement up in these events and kind of support the players and the scene itself. So $50,000, chump change to League of Legends players, but this is huge money For fighting game players, ka-ching. I mean, this is like big money. People are going for that Riot payday, man. They can pay me $20 and a bologna sandwich, and I'll get on that plane to compete. Like my life depends on it. So Frosty Flostings might be an opportunity for positive buzz in the community. And you know what? I think it really kind of was. The tournament ended up being really enjoyable to watch. There was a decent enough character variety in the top 8. The gameplay was high energy, wasn't causing people's eyes to glaze over. Bleed, 16 years old, was a new fighting game champion. Really good storyline there. Sonic Fox and Inzem entered as a duo and made top 8, so people got to see that there was a potential for 1 versus 2 gameplay, showing off a unique aspect to the 2XKO formula. And it had peak viewership of around 41,000 viewers, which is nothing, once again, for League, but for fighting games, that's not bad. That's nothing to scoff at. And it seemed like there could be positive momentum from this, positive top 8, get people interested in the game, and have more people playing 2XKO for a slow burn, a slow momentum build to get this game on the right track until the announcement. 2 weeks after Frosty Flostings, the update hit from Riot Games that half the dev team is being laid off. And this is real shit because, you know, a lot of people lost their jobs, a lot of really good people, and people from the fighting game community itself. Pat the Flip here says 10 years on 2XKO, 12 at Riot, and I got laid off with 30 minutes notice. Got to take some time. So it hit people pretty hard. But on top of the fact that a lot of good people from the FGC unfortunately lost their jobs, it's not just, you know, people who were working on content that will no longer be relevant or needed. There's some speculation you could argue that this is the typical life cycle for a publisher after a game is released, cut down on the dev team to have a more leaner team to maintain the game going forward once the bulk of the foundational work is done. That is an argument that people could make. And a lot of this could just be pure greed from the developers themselves, because in the fighting game, not just the fighting game, in the gaming industry, period, developers are known for just, you know, completely canning teams, even if they have a smash success on their hands. But you also see here Caroline and Blinkety, lead champ designers who produced most of the characters in the game, were also laid off as well, which does not bode well for the life cycle of the game for producing new characters, which is the expectation for a fighting game, especially one with only 10 currently or 12 currently. Their goal was to have 5 characters a year. Kind of hard to do if you start laying off the character designers who produce a lot of the characters in the game currently. And so it doesn't lead me to assume that there's still going to be a steady stream of content for supporting the game for too long. It leaves a lot of questions in terms of the longevity of the product. Not that this is just a leaning of the dev team to sustain the game for years to come, but that maybe the goal is to just release what is mostly already complete and then slowly transition to end of service a lot sooner than initially expected. So with the full announcement again from Tom Cannon, you know, they talked about that they wanted to make the team a lot more sustainable, and they want to continue to make 2XKO a great product. It's hard to feel confident about that statement in the face of massive amounts of layoffs so shortly after a free-to-play game was released, one that had a decade of development time leading up to it, and has only currently 12 characters to show for it, and does not have that much momentum in terms of engagement from the core FGC, the core target audience, and the adjacent IP that it's attached to. And it's not looking good. I cannot say I feel confident about the future of 2XKO at all from this point. My suspicion is that they're going to release this season of DLC characters, get 5 characters out, and I think that might be it. I think we got a year max of support. I could be totally wrong about that. That's my impression from this, is that this is going to be winding down way sooner than expected. But I could be wrong, and people still plan on playing the game and competing. They're going to be continuing to support the competitive series for 2026, so they'll still have the prize pools for the core FGC. It feels like there's 1 year left. That's my impression. And it's a little sad to see such a strange fumble, but the question also still remains, like, what happened? Like, what happened? The weird thing about this is that when this news broke, this is by far the most viral engagement opportunity that 2XKO has ever received. This was a major story, far beyond the reaches of anything that organically happens typically within the fighting game community. We had major influencers like Ludwig talking about this, and the responses were, of course, extremely typical for what you would expect. Z-Chrome, game release with next to no marketing. It's been out for what feels like a year now. 80% of characters are targeting the arcane market rather than the FGC community. Small roster, lack of general hype for what's in the game at the moment. Vienna VTuber here says, I didn't even know it was released, lol. The thing is, it did have marketing. They had a trailer in the Game Awards. They were at every single fighting game tournament. So within the fighting game niche, you could not escape it. If you were a fighting game player, you literally could not avoid the marketing whatsoever. It was actually over-marketed to a degree. People were complaining about influencers being bought and paid shills, and inspired. It was so marketed that it started to go the opposite direction, where people were fed up and fatigued from it, and had a very negative reaction to seeing 2XKO, to hearing about it. And at the same time, it was in the Riot client. It was advertised. There was massive trailers put out. There was marketing. I do want to set that record straight. But, what happened? What happened to 2XKO? Like, why did it not resonate with anybody until everyone got laid off? In a weird way, I almost suspect that 2XKO could spin the buzz from the layoffs into the most engagement in the game that it's ever seen. It would be a weird, terrible irony if this is actually the moment that got 2XKO to succeed, when people started to boot up and hear about the game for the first time. But what actually happened to 2XKO? One, was it lack of marketing? Like I mentioned before, I think this game was marketed, but of course the big issue is that the name fucking sucks. The name is fucking terrible. In every single fighting game that is based on a popular IP, you put the name of the IP in it. 2XKO, people were discussing in the Twitter post and the forum post after this, how do you pronounce 2XKO? They saw 2XKO and they're trying to phonetically sound it out. 2EX, I saw Texco. People were trying to figure out and decipher the code of what the name is. In case you don't know, 2 times KO, 2XKO is literally a thing that can happen in the game. If you kill both characters at the same time, the announcer goes, 2XKO. It's a thing that can happen in the game. It's like naming your fighting game Perfect KO, which would be a superior name anyways, but it's named after a specific result or game mechanic that occurs in the game instead of being based on the IP. Dragon Ball FighterZ has Dragon Ball in the name. Marvel vs. Capcom has Marvel and Capcom in the name. League of Legends is a massive IP. Project L was a better name than 2XKO. Project L was mysterious, and it had L, which you can then use your inference to determine it's League of Legends, right? It had some kind of badass energy to it. And that was just a prototype name. That was a temporary project name. Just League of Fighters. Anything else could have been better than that name. And another thing that could have went wrong, poorly estimated expectations. By the way, I'm going in order of what I think was least impactful to most impactful. Let me actually continue on the lack of marketing. Like I mentioned before, I think it was over-marketed. Influencers were brought in nonstop to market the game. You could argue that the marketing angle was wrong. They went after the core FGC audience. I personally was flown out to Santa Monica Studios for Riot Studios to check out the release of their latest fighting game character, and to check out the studio. And everyone there was a fighting game influencer. Everyone there was engaging with fighting games primarily, and for some reason there was no cross-pollination outside of the core fighting game community. So I don't know if that was for lack of access and resource, or just because they purposely chose that strategy. I'm a little confused about it. It seemed like they wanted to take over the fighting game community, and I don't think that was the strategy to go with. But I would still argue that this game did not falter due to lack of marketing. It was everywhere, especially if you're a fighting game player. But it was a niche within a niche within a niche, and even a lot of fighting game players rejected this game. Now, poorly estimated expectations. Based on that marketing angle, I have to wonder, did they expect this game to blow up and take over the world when a lot of the marketing was for fighting game specific players, and it only had 10 characters, and the gameplay is very, very intimidating and steep to get into, and a active tag fighter, which is off-putting to many casual fighting game fans. Every gameplay decision they went down, aside from lack of motion controls, seemed to indicate that they were heading into a direction of being extremely niche in the fighting game space, which is a tiny, tiny, tiny space to begin with. That is fine if your expectations and goals for monetization are targeted towards that. However, this is a free-to-play product. Therefore, it's going to need a large player base to sustain it in order to keep the devs afloat and to be able to sell enough cosmetics and character tokens and all that in order to make a profit. A free-to-play game does not benefit from being niche. Other fighting games from smaller devs can have a niche release because it's a full-price game that the core audience purchases, and they can temper their expectations and budgets accordingly. So it seemed like the gameplay design and the content that was actually released and the marketing didn't align with expectations if the game, after 3 weeks releasing on console and having a successful tournament showing, did not meet expectations based on the wording of that announcement. That, to me, seems very strange. It does not align with the actions taken prior to the actual release. Like I mentioned many times, it's a niche within a niche. I think this is the biggest impact in terms of gameplay, even though I don't rate gameplay that highly on being impactful to why this game did not draw a larger audience. Active tag is crazy to go for if you want this game to be popular with fighting game players. Most fighting game players dabble with Street Fighter or Tekken or Mortal Kombat casually. Like, that's the vast majority of the audience. Dragon Ball FighterZ was a tag fighter, but it wasn't an active tag fighter. And they went with the strategy of leaning into the popular IP and providing single-player content. So you have to do one of those to have a chance. Lack of characters and content. I think this is huge. I cannot believe after 10 potential years of dev time, the game released with 10, 12 characters for a 2v2 fighter. I'm not sure what happened internally to cause this to happen. This, to me, is the biggest issue with the core game itself. What the hell, man? 10, 12 characters? That's fucking insane. Like, that is just insane, and it shows. People do not resonate with the cast that was chosen, and their favorite League characters are not in there. If this released with 35 League characters and a lot of fan favorites were there, I guarantee you this could have blown the doors open with an announcement trailer like, hey, boom, League of Fighters, 30 of your favorite League characters here, boot up, play the game. Hey, it's a 1v1 game, but we have this 2v2 mode on the side to play with your friend because we're not sickos, we're not insane. That could have done gangbusters. That could have been $1 billion investment. It just, I don't know what happened internally to stall the development, but it felt like in 2026, the game was still not finished. So, there was issues with getting to training mode and queuing for ranked matches. I would argue that there's bugs a lot of the time, so I put that into the content bucket a little bit. But the main thing is lack of characters. But the main thing overall, I think the number one most important factor is 2XKO just doesn't have it. It just doesn't have it. And what I mean by it is it doesn't have pizzazz. It doesn't have that X factor. If I'm here, American Idol, I'm just saying, like, you just don't have it. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost hard to put into words, but it just doesn't have it. And a free-to-play game, a fighting game, is going to need to generate buzz. It's going to need to be engaging to viewers. This game, as it stands right now, I don't know if it's a combination of the art style, the gameplay with active tag, the sound design, the stages, or what it is, but it tends to make viewers' eyes glaze over. It tends to lead to people being very, very bored when watching the game. When you play the game, I think the game is more fun to play than to watch. I really did not like watching the game initially, and when I played it, I actually had a lot more fun playing it than I thought I would. Watching it feels very, very boring most of the time. That could have been resolved by having a lot more characters. That is a way to pad that, for sure. But I think there's a lack of impact with the sound design. There's a lack of impact with the gameplay itself. It just doesn't look or feel cool to hit people, and it doesn't feel badass. Like, there's nothing there to share with a friend what, like, hey, look, I did ABC launcher into Super, and it just feels impactful and feels cool. It's just not there visually with the sound design, and that means that people do not want to look at it, engage with it, or share it, and that leads to the inability to make this a viral or a game that spreads via word of mouth. So I can't describe to you exactly what it is about it, but it just doesn't have it. I think at the end of the day, no matter which way you try to dissect this, about being being an issue with the marketing, with being an issue with the content, being an issue with the expectations, it doesn't have it. And it is so important. It needs to just be like, wow, it needs to just blow your mind the moment you see it. Fighting games, first and foremost, are meant to inspire your imagination, are meant to just wow you, to make you feel like a kid. It's like when you see these characters for the first time as a kid, you walk past that arcade cab, or your friend boots up Tekken and he does a fucking death fist and their health bar explodes, and you just go, whoa, what is that? They do a super for the first time. It needs to have it. And 2XKO doesn't have it. And that's about it. I predict that 2XKO will last for another year. I could be wrong. If you love the game, if you enjoy it, I definitely encourage you to keep playing it. I encourage you to check it out. I think it is a fun game to play. I think there's a lot of issues with it. I could be completely wrong about the support that this game will receive going forward. I don't want to be all doom and gloom. A lot of great people I know worked on this game, and they did lose their jobs, and that's very serious in this difficult economy, and I'm definitely wishing them all the best. But I just wanted to catch you up with like the complete history, context for this. This went on for way too long, but maybe now, if you watch this all the way through, you can understand a little bit of what happened to 2XKO. Thanks for watching. Peace. I thought this would be 15 minutes max. That took an hour. Surge HC with the 3 months. Thank you. What up, Waz? Full year. I missed the whole hour. Can you do it again? I got you, man. Yo, I've been watching all your Mortal Kombat videos. They're baller. The new boss challenge ones. How long you plan on the actual video being? An hour. I'm uploading it right now. Anyways, sad time. Let's go on the More Brian F channel. Yes. There's still 80 people working on 2XKO. I guess they are doing something. They are, but my interpretation is it's not going to last forever. Hopefully I'm wrong. You've been anywhere on the internet in a gaming adjacent space, you've been seeing the headline up easy. Like a real big part of the fighting community is always romantic. Sorry, I'm checking my video, make sure it's working. Audience. You've been anywhere on. So what did I miss, guys? What are you up to? S-Dolls with the Prime earlier. Vaxstrom with the 33 months. Almost none of my friends in the Riot IP sphere even knew 2X existed. For sure, one facet is that it needed much more marketing to specifically those within the existing ecosystem. Yeah, it could have. There was a lot of marketing outside of it. I still feel like that's lower priority. That's one of the issues. Tony XYZ with the Fresh Prime. Chrysec PE with the 19, thank you. Let me turn the alerts on now. Duck Goes Quack with the 3 months. I wish you'd brought up a video of the Vi Super as a demonstration of how the game is missing it. That was a huge Twitter controversy on its own. There's too many. There's too many, yeah. I put this together like last minute today. I was busy with work and stuff. I think the slides are pretty good, though. I just feel like I'm worse at presenting when I do slides. The combos suck. I didn't want to go too deep, and I think I already did go too deep into it. I didn't want to go too deep into the actual issues as a fighting game, because I still think that's secondary, because I think the bigger issue is focusing on being a fighting game and not a fun product. I just don't think the fighting game genre can sustain what they're going for at all. If you wanted to dissect it as... I guess I wanted to make it clear that, in my opinion, if they wanted to be a hardcore FGC-only fighting game product, then yes, all those things matter. But I think that's just a miss entirely, and they should have backed up and made this a casually focused fun game with a sort of competitive depth that could be reached. But it's definitely over-engineered to be a competitive fighting game. I'm just really confused about the lack of characters. And I still think it's a cool game. I still like 2XKO. I'm still going to watch it, too. I think a 1v1 fighter would have been better as well. That's my bias as well. It's a free-to-play game. If you want to just expand the net as wide as possible, those things can help within the fighting game sphere to make it less intimidating to pick up, making it a 1v1 fighter. I see the goal of having duos. I suspect there was a lot of discussion of how can we make this different, can we set this apart, how can we tap into the League experience and make this far more unique, and that's where the idea for duos driving the tag came up. But for endemic fighting game community players and that audience, doing a tag game makes it already a tough ask to pick up. So then you have to triple down on producing a lot of content to make it engaging. But I think in general, like, gameplay is the last issue that prevents fighting games from being popular. It's more to me about the presentation, the it factor, making it impactful, making it interesting to look at, making it look cool, sound cool, be fun to look at, and then also having a lot of content and variety. Those two things are by far the most important aspects from my view, and then you can make whatever gameplay you want on top of that. But if you don't have those things and you just want to make a competitive fighter for fighting game fans, then yeah, they're going to start scrutinizing your gameplay really heavily.
Did you mention the Kit and Butterfly shop? Besides them charging $100 for like 3 things, you can't even buy what you want when you want to. How did they expect to make money when they won't let me buy stuff?
Thanks for the donation. I mean, it's supposed to be FOMO psychology hacking to get you to buy shit when it shows up, so that even if it's a price that would normally be outside your budget or what you'd be willing to spend, you spend it just to get it when it's available. I don't go into the monetization aspect of it because I'm not as well versed in those aspects, and to me, I think once again, all of that is secondary without having enough of a player population to support it. I also didn't even get into the whole lack of identity with motion inputs and not motion inputs. It's so funny to see so many like fighting game boomers and fighting game tourists harp on lack of motion controls as being a major factor here, because they said, oh, this is a baby easy mode game because of motion controls. I guarantee it, this game it's significantly harder than nearly every active fighting game on the market right now. And if you say that, you're exposing yourself. But if you just say that I prefer fighting games with motion controls because it feels fun, that's a fair critique. But this game is not that game. If you're trying to play this game, and you don't think about the motion controls at all, you're definitely doing a million fucking inputs per second. Dash macro, parry macro, push block, all the active defense you have to do, the block strings you're using, the combo conversions you're doing. This game is high octane as hell. Like, you are not going to be sitting there like thinking about motion controls during the actual gameplay. It does make the control scheme more cumbersome, though. I do agree with that. The control scheme is more cumbersome for fighting game players.
Now let's talk about the trash. Why What do I do with the trash? How do I dispose of the trash?
I just adore the feel of motion inputs. That's why I play SNK and shit, but I still give the game a shot. Yeah, and I think people who enjoy the feel of motion controls, that matters more for slower paced 1v1 fighting games without these long ass combos. Especially for Street Fighter. Like, I just feel 2XKO is designed around not having motion controls, but in games with very powerful specials like Street Fighter, lack of motion controls greatly impacts the gameplay experience. But for like DNF Duel, I did not care that you could do easy inputs. It did not impact the gameplay experience like that. 2XKO, that was not a factor either. It doesn't matter. Thanks again, Bazooka Badger. Thanks for the 4 months. Personally, I like motion inputs even on fast games like BlazBlue. Right. I mean, I'm sure you'll enjoy the motion controls. I enjoy motion controls too. I think there's a physicality to them. I guess what I'm trying to make clear is I care more about it when it greatly impacts the balance of the game due to having reduced input time for powerful specials that reduce your mental stack and actively change, especially in a reaction-heavy based game. I think that's very different. I think, in fact, for faster-paced games, it ends up mattering less because the neutral is not as controlled by checking options. Like Street Fighter, it really matters. It really fucking matters. In 2XKO, it just doesn't matter as much. The only time it feels like it matters in 2XKO is when you can do like a Blitz Super level 3 on randomly. Then it feels like modern controls. Actually, think the simple controls gives the illusion of an easier game despite being super hard. I think that was a really good move. Yeah, probably. My whole point being that was a drop in the bucket and did not matter for the issues for the game.
Oh, well, if you can't beat them, join them!
Guto Lima, thanks for the membership on YouTube. Appreciate that. 10 months. Such a shame. Marketing, naming, package, and timing. They had an internal battle they were fighting for sure, too. What a bam. Yeah, I wonder. I don't know the full story. I mean, I know a lot of people worked on the game, but I don't hound them for details. What percentage of people do you actually think spent money on 2XKO? People bought the costumes. I don't think my prediction is no percent mattered because there wasn't enough of an audience for that percentage to matter. I think maybe it's extreme, but I honestly feel like if 100% of every person who actively played the game bought cosmetics, it still wouldn't matter because it wasn't enough people. Because the player count was that low. The engagement was that low. The viewership was that low. What I'm saying is every single player could be buying cosmetics, and I don't think it would matter. I could be wrong also. I'm going to add that for every statement. But as a free-to-play game adjacent to 2XKO and Valorant, adjacent to League and Valorant, it was a rounding error. The player base is a rounding error compared to how much their other games are drawing. This game would have been fine as a small dev release for a $40 or even $60 game title and having this level of engagement. It would have been fine. It would have been like a pretty solid anime release. the scale of engagement it was getting would be like, hey, you did good, buddy. You're in the club. You're at the tournaments, you know. That's the level of engagement they got. Less than Grand Blue, less than DNF Duel. I don't know, was it DNF Duel level? DNF Duel had more hype. Conversely, DNF Duel's problems were all gameplay. Yeah, it's just not popular enough. Like, the game currently has 820 viewers. It's just not popular enough. And I know it's considered trashy and in poor taste to judge these metrics and to like try to do Steam chart posting or Twitch viewership posting, and I mostly agree with that. However, I think there's a floor you have to achieve with a free-to-play product that just released. It's just very different. It matters, especially for free-to-play. Right. I don't think it's right to judge those things for any game, really. It's a poisonous mentality that harms just the fun of engaging with the game and partaking in the community. But it's just different when it's a free-to-play product by a very, 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 very big publisher, because they're not doing it for charity, and it's not a product that already releases and you own and you can form a community around it. This game will eventually go offline, and you will not be able to play it. You'll not be able to play it. How many people are watching MK1? Probably hardly any. 443. That's more than I expected, to be honest. But Mortal Kombat already made its cash. It already made its money, dude. It's a different business model. That's what I'm saying. It's not a thing you should typically do. I do think most people try to like dunk on other games in a very dumb way by doing Steam chart and Twitch viewership posting, but it's just a different standard. MK1 already made the bag. Exactly. They cashed out early, dude. People buy that shit and dip. They like I mentioned before, people buy Mortal Kombat, they do the fatalities, they play the story mode. Warner Brothers got the bag, and that's it. On to the next one. Rinse and repeat. Idom said do high guard. I haven't watched anything of this game. Oh shit. Okay, 974. Yo, 2xKO, you almost got it. You can do it, man. As a casual, I just had no interest in playing a tag game with an art style, so Resident Sleeper. Yeah, I would imagine that YouTube would have far more viewership than Twitch for Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is just in its own parallel universe. Normies are on Twitch or on YouTube, sorry, and that's where the viewership is. 2xKO is not a normie game though. It's going to be on Twitch. In fact, it was very disappointing trying to do content for 2xKO because for example, me and Idom did a duo stream for 2xKO, and that was one of the funniest fucking videos I've ever put out. That video was so funny. And no one watched it. It's one of my favorite videos ever. And years of doing content. And no one gave a shit. No one clicked it. Even some, it's just people don't click on 2xKO. I don't know what to title this video. It's 2xk over. Well, I want it to be a primer for people who don't know what's going on, because the big thing with the story is that it went viral and everyone's like, what is 2xko and what happened?
Now let's talk about the trash. What do I do with the trash? How do I dispose of the trash? I don't know.
Thank you. Like, even using the word 2xko in the title doesn't make sense because no one fucking knows what 2xko is. I don't know if I want to say it failed. That feels too harsh. It failed to meet expectations, but it's not done. And I don't want to discourage people from trying the game out. You get what I'm saying? It's a tightrope to walk. I want to explain the situation without ragging on it. Sorry, I'm updating a thumb right now. Dun, 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 dun. One second, guys. Sorry. Riot's League of Legends fighting game failure? That's way too harsh. The complete history behind Riot's League of Legends fighting game launch. I don't want to do Downfall or whatever. That's too. There's a few key buzzwords and stylistic angles you have to be careful to avoid as a content creator before you start ending up next to like Sunny V2 videos and recommendations. You know what I mean? I do not want to be. I don't want to fit cozy in next to those type of video recommendations. The downfall of my favorite Minecraft YouTuber who pivoted over to playing Runeterra. You know, like weird shit like that, dude. That is the horrible, horrible pigeonhole to fall into on YouTube. I don't want to be pigeonholed into that. But I do want to explain. I want this to be more of an explanation for what happened. Ten-year dev cycle? .2xKO's 10-year dev cycle to layoffs 3 weeks after launch. Riot's League of Legends fighting game. It's hard to do this. This is too wordy. I'm going to put a bunch of... Sorry, I'm like testing things out here. I'm trying to figure this out. My bad. I'll pay attention to you guys. My bad. I'm like typing and trying a bunch of different things because I don't want to call it 2xKO. I want to call it League of Legends fighting game. Riot's League of Legends fighting game struggling before people knew it existed. The the 10-year development cycle 10-year dev cycle 10 years of developments. The history why 2xKO the 2xKO situation explained. Is there a reason why Moist Critical titles his things this way? The 2xKO situation explained. I do want to try A-being it with one that it mentions Riot's League of Legends fighting game is struggling. Like as a dash, I'll do one with it and one without it. You get what I'm saying? just because I'm not sure the context. It make the shorter the title, the catchier, but the context might help. I'm concerned about the context because why doing a title about a thing that no one knows the name of, because titling something after something struggling because no one knows the name is not going to help. What's a 2XKO? The reason why no one knows what a 2XKO is. The complete story of why 2XKO why Riot laid off half their fighting game team. The 2XKO story? I also don't want to be trying to profiteer off people's suffering. That is what happened, though. Talking about negative things is so difficult. It's such a tightrope to walk. People love to click on it, love to engage with it, but you got to be so careful about it. I click some of the word layoff. I mean, it's harsh. It's what happened. Okay, whatever. I put some options. Wait, did I use it? The A/B testing feature bugs out sometimes. Hold on. Why doesn't it? Okay. I don't know if what I titled it or thumbed it is any good. We'll let it rock for now, and I'll update it later. Whatever. Okay, how are you guys doing? My bad. Anyone else have any thoughts to share? Is Riot the villain or victim? I mean, I will always side with the employees here, of course. A lot of good people got impacted, lost their jobs. That shit's fucking serious, man. But generally, large corporations are kind of evil by structural design. It's just the nature of the beast. They are not your friend, and that's how it is. But if the question is, what is there something that could have been done differently to keep gainful employment, then maybe. I don't know, man. I don't know what went wrong in terms of character production and development. I think something went wrong there. So while I do want to blame Riot for the most part, I can't, like, if I were to remove myself from the situation and be a CEO, some high up person at Riot who knows nothing about this, and my job is to protect the bottom line, I would look at 2XKO and I would see a struggling gazelle with like a rotting leg. And I would say it needs to be put down not only for the safety of the pack, but it's putting out of its own misery. I kind of feel that way. But that's my guess. I don't know the economics of it all, but it just feels like they put a lot of money into this, and I don't understand. Like, I don't think it's going to make a comeback. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. But structurally, that's an evil proposition, because that's what companies are. Companies are like structured to be evil. So that's the system. Because it's someone else's job higher up to get a bunch of other people unemployed, right? Like, that's just, I don't know what you do about that, man. You overthrow capitalism. Everyone's trying to do self-preservation all the way to the top, where they're trying to hoard resources. So, like, it's going to trickle down to unemployment for people not at the top. This whole cycle has been really painful for me, because I really wanted this game to be like well received, but there's a lot of struggles with it. Y'all had a cushy job for 10 years and got 6 months severance. They'll be okay. You don't know that. See, this is the fucking insensitivity that people have. You don't know that it was a cushy job. They could have been working their fucking ass off this whole time. Maybe the end product isn't successful, but like I feel like people have this weird callousness towards people, and have some compassion is all I would say. These are real people who had their real jobs impacted, and generally in game development, it's not a culture that you would associate with cushy. It's a culture you associate with exploitation and forced unpaid overtime and crunch. And I went to Riot Studios itself, and my impression of it is it was cool to go there. They do try to employ this image of cushiness, right? I went to Riot Studios for the Caitlyn preview, and they have a really nice lobby with fan art on the walls and cool League of Legends sculptures and posters, and they have a giant fully stocked cafe with a 24/7 bartender with free coffee drinks, free snacks. They have a basketball court. They have an arcade. They have all these perks and cafeteria and all these things. But at the end of the day, they have all that stuff in order to make it so that young 20-something, 30-year-old people don't go home and stay at their job, and they have everything they need to keep them at the office for longer, to work longer hours, put off starting a family, put off seeing your friends, put off... It's a psychological play that is done at tech jobs because it's less physically demanding overall, and therefore they can keep fueling you, keep putting caffeine into your system, keep feeding you. They do that stuff so that you end up living your job and working twice the hours. So I did see all that, and your first impression would be, oh, this seems so cushy. And the more perks they were showing off to me when I was there, the more I'm like, this is a trap. They showed me all that, and I'm like, this is all setting off major red flags to me. You can't do good faith compare working at Riot to working in an oil field or construction. The grand scheme of things, work is cushy. It's not me being insensitive. Brother, listen, we all got fucking soft hands in here in the Twitch chat. No shit, dude. God damn it. It's so stupid. So fucking dumb. Just because some people suffer, other people can't. Just stupid. Just dumb. That is a dumb thing. That is a dumb way to view life, man. It is a dumb way to view life. If a bunch of people working in an oil field and working construction lost their jobs, I would also be like, damn, they fucking work their ass off and lost their jobs because the corporate system determined that they're no longer productive to the end product and they are disposable. Dogpile comments, I'm talking to you one-on-one. If everyone else thinks you're fucking dumb too, that's just a coincidence. I'm talking to you. It's me and you, buddy. What do you mean, Dogpile? Remember, you're a human being. Your voice matters. We are on equal standing here. God, I can't stand the internet. The way people talk on the internet is insane. Why Irish just bans people? Should have. You're right. And I don't even disagree with him about saying the job is more cushy in some ways. Yes, of course. People are still losing their jobs, though. Just playing the suffering Olympics is just... it's a race to the bottom. I gotta play some games tonight. I need to eat dinner. I was busy preparing the slideshow and I haven't had dinner. So I don't know if I will have time. It's really simple. Riot has a bottom line, and the game didn't meet expectations. The devs fucked up by making a game that wasn't good. They brought in the Cannon Bro and a bunch of old heads to make a game with the expectation that we'd know it best, and they didn't. I don't think we know the full story, but I do agree that the game probably didn't have the appeal it needed. I definitely agree with that. I think it's a lot more ambiguous to know how these kind of things end up, though. We don't have the full story. Unfortunately, I think the issue is definitely the lack of content. The game doesn't have it. I definitely agree with that. So I do agree that I can't fault Riot entirely for eventually having to pull the plug, but that is, once again, just the shitty nature of the beast. I don't think they had to lay everybody off. They could have made more of an effort to try to allocate resources for sure. But I don't think the product... I'm skeptical that the product was viable for the investment. I feel like people overestimate the importance of game balance and gameplay when it comes to sales. The game needed so much more content, in my opinion. Yes, it did. Game balance and all that stuff matters for sales if it's an active game with a large player base already. Or let me rephrase that. With what it was being a 10, 12 character release free-to-play fighting game, the balance actually mattered way more. Because your only content is then going to be other people playing the game, and lack of balance and stale gameplay only adds negative scrutiny to the only content produced from the game, which is gameplay. So because of that, there was a far more emphasis and scrutiny on the balance in the gameplay. Whereas if they just had a shit ton more characters... then there's more novelty to be rotated, and the content produced from it will inherently be more varied and novel. I feel like they're going to lay off those people regardless. They just use it as an excuse. That is also potentially what's happening as well. It's often a strategy for developers to just ramp up teams to produce something and then fire them all. So that definitely could have been part of it. That's why one of the points is, what were the expectations for performance for the product? However, I feel like there's for sure a mismatch of expectations being met here. Like the results aren't matching expectations because of the wording used in the dev blog post. I feel like they wouldn't outright say that the game doesn't have momentum and a public-facing announcement that will cause a lot of media scrutiny if it wasn't true, because that brings a lot of negative attention and can potentially inspire people to be less interested in the game. I feel like that is too negative of a statement to put out if that was your plan all along. Hey, even if this game is profitable, let's put out this statement that says the game is not meeting expectations on a free-to-play game. I just don't think you would do that. So I think there is definitely truth to that statement. And a free-to-play game would have more active development on it, too, so you would need to sustain more of a dev team. A lot of my friends didn't even know there was a League fighting game. Yeah, the marketing, the product failed to market itself. The name was terrible. There's a lot of issues. 2XKO is one of the worst product gaming names I've ever heard in my life. I disappointing. But right now, more people are learning about the game than ever before. I'm telling you, there is a small window of opportunity here. If some big streamers step in and they go, you know what? I'm going to check out this League of Fighters game. Texco. It's going down. And they boot up the game. They finally hear about it and they go, wait, they have my favorite? Darius is in the game? What? I've been playing Darius since 1973. Back in season 1 of League of Legends. And then, who knows, it could have its viral moment. That can happen to games. That we live in a world where free-to-play games can just spontaneously become a cultural movement, a literal meme in that sense.
Bitch, I live in a fucking trash can.
It could happen. And this could be the advertisement that 2XKO unfortunately needed, just at the cost of 80 people's livelihood. Small price to pay. What up, Sajam? Thanks for the 107. Listen, can I clip one of your stream rants now and put it on my channel? Can I flip the script? Where was everybody on Sajam's YouTube just because I was a little depressed about fighting games having a little bit of a rough go right now? Golly. I watched most of your rant. I'm not sure what your estimate was. Did you have an estimate for end of service for 2XKO? The wording definitely makes me assume that it's not going to be forever. It's going to be like a year. The impression I get is clean shop, close up doors. Ryan was a prophet. I was not a prophet. I was just depressed that Capcom had just announced that pay-per-view was going to be for Capcom Cup, killing my entire buzz around the CPT. And 2XKO was clearly not like blowing up. It was a little depressing. There's a lot of depressing things going on. My buzz was killed. My assumption is like they finished out this year's content. Yeah, that's how I feel too. Maybe the Doomers were right. A lot of people don't like fighting games. There is definitely a large percentage of the general gaming audience that actively has disdain for fighting games. That does exist also. Like, they're not indifferent to it, but they actively dislike fighting games, which is interesting to see. I was surprised to see some of those reactions when it was very interesting to just read a lot of responses to the 2XKO announcement, because you got to see so many different reactions outside of our bubble that you normally don't see. It was very interesting. I find it funny that someone said they find it funny that Tyler played more Street Fighter 6 than he did 2XKO. Street Fighter 6 is just a better product, man. It's just a better product. Easy to boot up and play. Good sound design. Good graphics. Just easier to get into. He's the Illaoi player. Does Tyler 1 play Illaoi? I don't know who he played in League. Yes, he does. Were they trying to get specifically Tyler 1 to play this game? Was that the whole strategy? Hold on. Is there like a really top level streamer representative for each one of these characters in 2XKO? Was the goal for the dev team to like assemble them like Thanos with the gauntlet, get all the Infinity Stones on there, get Tyler 1 to stream, and get who else would it be? That's what we have to do. We have to, each one of these characters, we have to find their streamer. No one plays Illaoi and Teemo. Who's Ludwig playing? Didn't Ludwig play Teemo? And Moose Moose? What's that character's game? Zoom Zoom? Amumu? Yeah, Ludwig plays Moose Moose. Everyone knows that. Brian, do you practice speaking or speeches? Not gonna lie, I admire your speaking ability. No, and I wish mine was much better. You know, actually, I watch streamers like Ludwig, and I'm inspired by their ability to speak eloquently. Their oration, is that the word? You watch me long enough, I mix up words all the time, and I stutter and lose my train of thought. I have this issue where I have so many words that I know on an intuitive level that I've read and consumed, but can't quite put my tongue on. And my brain defaults to trying to use them because I know they fit in that spot, but I can never actually form the word. And if I could just dial instead of shooting for the stars, if I could dial my speech level down just a tad bit, I would never stumble or fumble. But my brain has these words that I've read, and I know they fit there, but I'm not ready for it, man. Playing above my level. I'm on the verge of eloquence, and I fall short every time. You can take vocal coaching lessons. I did that too to improve my public speaking. I used to talk too fast. I have that issue as well. You're good enough, you could be XQC. Yeah, but he's on the opposite end of the spectrum where it's so insane his speech patterns that it becomes part of the charm as well. In fact, I feel like most popular mega streamers fall on that spectrum. There's only a handful of streamers that I would put in the eloquent and sound intelligent when they speak category who have managed to cross over and become ultra successful. The vast majority of them find more success by sounding just insane when they speak. Robin grinding. I saw he got a top 8 in some random online tournament. I hate to say that he's actually always been very solid at Street Fighter. Josh Strife Hayes. I watch his YouTube. I like when he goes off the cuff ranting. Token gotta fix everything. I'm not like dooming about fighting games overall right now. It's just a little sad. I mean, Sajam's talking about backing up ship and being a Deadlock streamer. That's crazy. And the crazy thing is, Sajam absolutely could pivot to do anything he wanted. He absolutely could pivot. I think Sajam's been building this foundation for years at this point to cash out and pivot and to make it big and ditch us bums once and for all. He has all the connections he's formed through the slam, and over the years, he's legit good at all these dumbass shooting games, whatever. What the fuck is a Deadlock anyways? You tell me. Listen, I'm a dumb fighting game player. I don't know what a Deadlock is. Is it a MOBA? Is it a shooting game? Is it a hero shooters? What is Marvel Rivals? What is that? LoL plus Overwatch? You're doing math equations I don't understand, man. Give me frame data. I'm doomed. There's no way out for me. Sajam, you could do... you know what I feel like we're at right now? This is Goodwill Hunting. I feel like we're having this is a Goodwill Hunting moment. If I wake up tomorrow, Sajam, and you're still here, I'm gonna fucking kill you, Sajam. You need to get out of here and do something with your life. I swear to God. Because I wake up every day, and I know I got nowhere to go. This is it for me. This is my life. But you can do anything. You could stream Deadlock. You could You can play Marvel Rivals. You can get out there and stream with the big streamers out there. You can commentate any game you want. Me? All I know is +2 tick throw. All right? Drive rush, buffer cancel. That's all I got. Okay? It's true, man. It's true. Am I doing the group draw again this year? No, they got Jeremy and who's the other person they're doing? Vicious and someone else is doing it this year. Oh, Jammers. Jammers. It is a weird time for gaming overall, though. There is a lot of strange developments happening. Obviously, I'm pretty not pleased with the whole Saudi buyout of all the Evo stuff as well. It's a little strange. Is there still 0 seating at the Capcom Cup? I think so. I mean, they always try to do like a regional seating, and then they have seating within the Premier qualifiers, but that's about it. Already Supreme slaps is good. Maybe that's what I need to get my mojo back. Everything hinges on that Street Fighter 6 March update. I think Street Fighter 6 is okay. Honestly, like, I care less about updates and all that right now. I'm more concerned about the consolidation of power for Street Fighter 6 and the organization for esports. I definitely feel more disillusioned with the idea of Capcom ever getting their shit together for Capcom Cup. It's just becoming more and more insular for a Japanese audience, which is maybe business-wise makes sense for them, but I feel excluded. There's a lot of little things where it feels like it's less and less for me that are adding up. So I have a serious question. Is esports also just kind of dying? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It was always artificially inflated with the venture capitalist funds going crazy in the 2015, 2016 era. And then when that bubble popped with COVID, now it's the Saudi funds. So absolutely. Then on top of that, you know, the whole AI bubble for the American economy is also pissing me off because I was going to try to upgrade my PC system again. I wanted to upgrade and to maybe have like my own NAS server or move a computer into the living room. I was like, yeah, now's the time. Last time I upgraded was right during peak COVID prices because I was kind of forced to because I had to switch over to playing on PC instead of PlayStation 4 for Street Fighter 5. And now it's peak AI bubble prices. The GPU prices are so goddamn nuts. Dude, the RAM prices. So it's like, there's a lot of stuff in the hobby of the space that is very, very, very disappointing right now. It's going to blow up pretty soon, don't worry. Yeah, I wonder what the fallout will be. I wonder what the fallout will be from that. I got my first comments on the 2XKO video. Every big FGC content creator out there concluded that 2XKO is a fun game and it's not the end for this game since having 80 people still working on the project is more than enough. But Brian SF, Street Fighter, says that the game doesn't have it. It will be dead by the end of the year just because he is a big Street Fighter only fanboy and gatekeeper and hates when people enjoy something other than his favorite game. This guy is just heavily biased. I wish it was that simple, dude. I really fucking wish. I wish it was that simple, man. I don't understand how people live in such delusional fantasies. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people still think people... what happens to the human mind when you engage in tribalism over video games? The console wars ended in 2014, dude. Like, I don't understand it. I don't understand it, man. I wish I saw... People mistake me for being a fanboy. I'm just very... very skeptical about the future of anything. I just don't believe things will exist until they exist. I wish I had the ability to be optimistic. I am very pessimistic. I think the game is fun too. I would love to be wrong. I would absolutely fucking love to be wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. Please prove me wrong. Please. 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 You're also assuming the comment is sincere. I can't check here, but if you guys aren't familiar with making YouTube content, usually when someone leaves a comment like that, you click on their name on your phone, and you'll see that they have at least 10 other comments of the exact same structure on random videos that aren't even related to whatever they're talking about. That's not the work of someone who is not deeply obsessed with you. Like, I think people who don't have that perspective don't know how strange this, like, parasocial obsession goes, where people just, like, comment over and over and over and over and over, critiquing you and calling you biased or whatever. Like, it's a thing that happens. Torrenders, thanks for the big raid. FGC is the most doomer community I have ever been a part of. It's seen as cool to be pessimistic here. Do you think so? See, the thing is, I feel like there is definitely power negativity that draws a lot of clicks for sure. But every time I critique anything, I get a lot of pushback. And if you try to critique Street Fighter 6, you will be you'll see a lot of pushback. However, there's definitely an audience for everything. Yeah, like I definitely think Adam leans way too much into negativity. I think that's crazy. But also, I don't know. It's very difficult to navigate critique and criticism and trying to be objective with your analysis, because people will just end up they want to put you in a bucket as either a shill or a doomer. You're either a shill or a hater, and like literally on the same video or on the same discussion point, you'll be called both by different people. I'll get called a shill or a hater, a fanboy or a doomer, like whatever, on the exact same piece of content by different people from different perspectives, because you have to be put into a box. You have to be aligned into a box, and that's just how humans. People have to make snap judgments about whatever opinion you have really quick. So I don't know. I think there is a lot of things in the fighting game scene right now that unfortunately aren't going according to plan. Like the 2XKO, this situation with the 2XKO is this a fair time to talk about potential failing? You know, this whole build-up for 2XKO, I was reporting on it while playing the game, while supporting the game. I was also reporting on the perception, the engagement, the community perception. And a lot of people, I got feedback saying that I am a 2XKO hater or a doomer about the game. And I just look at that as like, if I talk about or show evidence of a large percentage of reactions that other people are having about a product, that doesn't mean I share that opinion. I am just reporting on a phenomena that is occurring. Am I therefore endorsing that? Like maybe it's a weird thing to handle. So I saw a lot of that pushback for me. Like when I on the podcast I talked about positions that people were making it about 2XKO that I didn't agree with, and criticisms that people levied against 2XKO that I didn't personally agree with. But I talked about those opinions existing. But then that perception for some people is directly an endorsement, or it's shattering their worldview and their bias, and therefore they have a negative reaction to it. So you end up being called a hater. When you asked a dude on Twitter if he worked for Riot, I laughed, not gonna lie. I don't know what happened to the Nitin, but yeah, I think he made his whole personality 2XKO, which was very strange to see. And I was like, holy shit, do people look at me like that about Street Fighter? Shout out to the Nitin. I just muted him after that. I don't know. It was very strange. And I don't... You know, I really did have an opportunity to gloat about the pushback I received. I had a tweet about 2XKO being... I was praising 2XKO for its results at Frosty Faustings and saying, oh, there's hope for this game to do well. And I got a lot of critique from that, from 2XKO fans, as if there wasn't an issue to look for, which I found very fucking strange. I had a tweet that said, 2XKO at Frosty's was fun to spectate. I've been watching the game to see if it can pull through and get some positive momentum on its side, and this tournament felt like a make-or-break moment for its PR. There's hope. That was 9 days ago. I made that tweet. I think I was right in the sense that it felt like a make-or-break moment, but I guess it didn't make it. And I got a couple of responses of people saying, like, wow, why are you being so critical, whatever. And sometimes I do think I'm too pessimistic sometimes, but other times I feel like people aren't paying attention. Like what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? And then this announcement happens, and it's a tragic announcement, and it's like, yeah, but you can kind of see this coming. I don't know why that happens. Our brains remember negativity twice as much as positivity or something like that. I'm not sure the quantified numbers of that, but negativity bias is extremely powerful. And that is a problem. Unfortunately, social media algorithms tap into whatever our biases are, and humans are biased towards negativity. So therefore, if you're on Twitter or anything algorithmically driven, an easy way to farm engagement is by being negative. That is very, very true. Very true. In general, I tend to tweet overall a lot less than I used to years ago. Basically for that reason. I mostly just do promo tweets now. Because otherwise, like, if you start tweeting, like, the thing that it rewards you for is being negative. It's very hard to get past that barrier with anything positive. do the Coney and fight the mob. As much as I fucking respect it, like I used to do that a lot. And I got into that a little bit about that 2XKO tweet, and I was like, dude, this shit just ruins your day. It's just not worth it. It's just so, I have so many things I could be spending my time on. And every time I tweet something and I get a reply that it spikes your cortisol, I'm just like, why the fuck did I make this tweet? Mute instantly. I remember talking about this on the podcast too, about how you need to protect your peace, and especially if you're on a platform like Twitter, you need to be liberally using the mute and block function. And one of the responses on that clip from the podcast was, oh, but then you're not engaging in honest intellectual conversation and you're putting yourself in a silo. And I was like, well, kinda, but also the whole point of especially Twitter is to find your silo and also to find your counter silo. The way these things work is it forms you into camps, because you'll have both the signal of who is in your silo, and then you'll have the content that enrages your silo. It triggers the reaction of negativity, and therefore having that counter silo reinforces your current team, right? So team red versus blue, whatever it may be, right? Like whatever pisses you off, engaging with that will put you further into your silo on the other side as well. And in my view, it's all bullshit on these algorithms. And the best thing you can do is, the moment something irks you or annoys you, is 100% to mute or block. Because Twitter is a garbage platform that should only be used to engage with people about hobbies you enjoy. It is not the intellectual debate battleground. It is not that. It is not what it is. Big Bird is the king of cortisol spiking, fighting Twitter users daily. Yeah, my advice to Big Bird would be, you should mute him. But I get it. Like, I've done it. I've done it plenty of times. Plenty of times. And when Coney does it, he's masterful at just fighting a 1v100 Kumite in the Twitter replies and fucking owning them. And it's cathartic to read. I enjoy it. Oh, man, I saw a tweet to another person in the FGC the other day, and he had a tweet that popped off outside of his core audience, and he got a snarky reply from the classic combination of getting a snarky tweet reply, quote tweeting you to their audience, misinterpreting and misreading your statement and arguing against a point that you did not make at all because they're partially illiterate. And then even the point they're getting mad about that you didn't make is dumb as fuck anyways. So like just all the way, just both rude and dumb. Like all the way around. You know what I mean? It just had every aspect to it. And this person that I follow replied to it like, oh, come on now. Like, that's not what I said. You know, like engaged with it. And then that original poster who quoted him replied like, I'm a fan of yours. I'm so surprised you're responding with anger. You must be an angry person. Best of luck with that. Just patronizing, snarky, dumb. You patronizing, dumb motherfucker. You know what I mean? I was like, I saw that interaction. I was like, you dumb as bricks, patronizing bitch. To someone else. This is happening to someone else. And I wanted to be like, I almost wanted to reply like, he might not have, I just wanted to be like, fuck you. Like, like I almost wanted to reply to that, a conversation I'm not a part of. I almost just wanted to drop in there and just leave that tweet and just get out of there. And then, you know, it got me. I wasn't even part of it. And then I blocked that person who wasn't talking to me at all. I just blocked them. And I sent my guy a message, and I was like, you might not have anger problems, but after reading that tweet, I do. I DM'd my guy directly. I was like, I don't think you have anger problems, but I definitely do. After reading that. Notice how most of this can be avoided by not using Twitter? Yes, for sure. But it happens on YouTube also, and I like YouTube. But it happens on YouTube as well. You really have to actively try to curate your social media experience. There's value in there somewhere for sure. For example, I feel very relaxed watching Balatro videos. I mean, there's a lot of rage bait on YouTube, but some people have really messed up algorithms. And if you publish things to YouTube, people get mad at you a lot. Which platform is best for constructive feedback? What do you mean? YouTube comments are worse than Twitch. I find that they have higher highs and lower lows. YouTube comments can actually be pretty powerful. Twitch is generally, there's very little value in Twitch comments. But it's not meant to be a valuable place of discussion. It's meant to shitpost. But YouTube has far lower lows, but every once in a while there's actual insightful comments that come out of it. Glad you feel that way about us. It's no problem. I mean, it's also like a way more parasocial dynamic for sure. Like, it's very strange that I'm sitting here talking to hundreds of people about bullshit. It's very strange. I don't like thinking about it. I don't want to remember that there's hundreds of people watching me right now. Random Brian fan probably punched their monitor after you said that. Maybe. I'm sorry. I apologize. Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I got nothing else to blab about. I'm going to get some food in me. I just wanted to get out of that presentation on the 2XKO history. Stay strong. If you like 2XKO, once again, do what you can do. Like, my advice to close out, I guess on a positive note, it's tough as 2XKO is a free-to-play product, and a lot of its life cycle is going to be heavily out of your control. But you control what you can control, and don't spend energy worrying about the parts that you cannot. If you really love 2XKO, continue to show that love, continue to play it, be positive, and share that positivity and share the cool aspects of the game. As someone who really enjoyed a fighting game that a lot of people didn't like, right? I really like Street Fighter V. I really like playing Oro. I really liked Endgame Street Fighter V. And that game faced a ton of negativity because, you know, a lot of it justified, especially early on. It was garbage at release. The best thing I think I did around that game was just highlighting what I liked about it a lot. And that eventually has a power to pull people in and engage. And I think that's what 2XKO is heavily missing right now, is that power to pull people in and engage. But you potentially could be that change. If you can highlight cool gameplay, communicate what makes the game special to you, what makes the game engaging, what makes it fun, that is literally something that anyone who actually plays and enjoys the game does have the power to do. Yes, even you, potentially, if you put the work in and focus on that. Chastising people and saying things like, oh, this game deserves more or whatever, I think you can never shame people or guilt trip people into enjoying something. Sympathy support is always short-lived and never goes a long way. You need to drive actual engagement by showing what you enjoy and why it's enjoyable. And I think that can potentially have power, greater powers than you might expect. Now, it might not save the game, but who knows? It could be the start of something big. If you really believe in the game, that's what I would recommend. Do your part. Show why it's cool. Show why you like it. And you never know what could follow. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time, whenever that may be. Take it easy. Peace.